Well, hello everyone, and this is Dr. Isabelle Amig, your friendly rheumatologist from Unabridged MD. And today I am so excited to have Cheryl Crow. And if you don't know her already, then that means that you are not on social media because she's all over. And she even had a viral TikTok where I think you were sharing why we should be a rheumatologist. I actually thought you were a
Oh,
rheumatologist. So
oh, that's funny. Sorry, my screen froze for a second. Hopefully you still saw me.
yeah,
But
yeah.
I
So
love
yeah,
rheumatologists. I know yeah, I'm always trying to tell people, it's not us versus them, patients versus rheumatologists. The only us versus them I experience is maybe the patients and physicians against the insurance companies, but that's a story for another day.
yeah, absolutely. So let's jump right in. Tell us a little bit about you. So you are an occupational therapist. Maybe explain what this is, and then your story through what relationship you have with rheumatology and specifically rheumatoid arthritis.
Yeah, so maybe I'll go in chronological order if that's okay. So, I got diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis when I was 21, right before my 22nd birthday. I was in between my junior and senior year of college. And I can go back to my diagnosis story if you want, but then I became an occupational therapist 6 years later. And actually, I did not go to OT school to learn about how to help people with arthritis because I didn't know that's what we could do. I was never referred to occupational therapy as a patient. I went into it because I wanted to help people with brain injuries or people with developmental disabilities because I had some of that in my family and friend circle. So then I learned all these amazing tools and tips for coping with arthritis and everyday living strategies like adaptations, life hacks, gadgets that could help. And I thought, okay, well, this is really interesting. And by the way, okay, let me backtrack. What is occupational therapy? I like to say an occupational therapist is if a psychologist and a physical therapist had a baby, because we are licensed and we are treat directly mental health in the absence of any physical disability. So there's OTs that work full time in patient psych. And then we also treat the physical disabilities. And the thing that separates us from PT is that our exclusive focus is on helping you function in your daily life, in your activities of daily living or your life skills. So that could be cognitive life skills like planning, executive functioning, or it could be physical life skills like being able to, assemble food as somebody with arthritis, take care of children, take care of pets. So we really are life skills specialists. Like if I could rename the field, I would call us life skills specialists, or some say we're the original life coaches, but it is a science-based, licensed field, unlike life coaching. So anyway, so yeah, I became an occupational therapist because I really loved the idea of being able to work with people one-on-one, help them improve their function in daily life. I worked in pediatrics for a while, and then I pivoted to helping other people with rheumatic disease and inflammatory arthritis.
So yeah, and then you created I almost want to say a movement because again, like you have a very strong following on social media and you have this support group. Do you want to tell us a little bit about your support group? Because I really love what you do. So it just like, yeah, share with us.
You're so sweet. Yeah. So what I noticed over the years living with rheumatoid arthritis, and then especially being on social media, was that patients were not, they had so many questions. Patients with rheumatoid arthritis, psoriatic ankylosing spondylitis, they were given a lot of information in their rheumatologist appointments about medications, but they weren't given any other tips on how to function. Like, how do I do my hair when my hands hurt? How do I, take care of my life? Like, and if I'm not in full remission, this is affecting my life, right? So I started sharing literally just for fun on social media. I thought, oh gosh, there's always little adaptations and things that make my life easier. Why don't I share with them, how there's like a special hair tie where you can make your hair in a ponytail with if your hands are really hurting that day, or what's the difference between a hot pack and a cold pack? How can that help? Little things I learned from my occupational therapy background, and people were so excited about those that I kept doing it. And then layer two was I started noticing people expressing a lot of the challenges they had with coping, anxiety, depression, mental health. And so that I kind of joke, my internal tagline for Arthritis Life and my Room to Thrive group is like, come for the life hacks, stay for the emotional support, because I started getting really into what are the evidence-based ways to improve quality of life and coping and, general sense of life satisfaction in people with chronic pain conditions. And it was acceptance and commitment therapy kept coming up. And I had actually been introduced to that as a patient in my one-on-one therapy with a psychologist. I really loved ACT. It's also known as ACT. And it's really a way to just say, it's a mindfulness plus behavior approach. So you say, what is actually happening right now in my life? Can I expand and make room for that? Even if it's painful, even if it's uncomfortable, even if it's stressful, can I just sit with the present moment? And then can I, instead of trying to feel better, can I then turn towards what is still possible, what is still meaningful in my life? It's a very congruent outlook to occupational therapy. So long story short, I kind of synthesized all that. During the pandemic, I had started a talk show, which was like a YouTube channel in 2019. Then 2020, the pandemic hit. And I was like, well, shoot, I'm not going to be able to do in-person interviews anymore. Let's do this all virtual. And I started thinking, okay, during the pandemic, I was like, what if I created my own self-management and support group program to meet these needs that people have in a more in-depth way? Because it is really gratifying, I'm sure you found too, sharing your tips and tricks on social media, but it doesn't that consistent relationship. You don't get to go that deep with people unless you like take it offline. But long story short, I created Room to Thrive, which is the only one that I know of that's a comprehensive self-management and support program that's designed specifically for people with rheumatoid arthritis, psoriatic arthritis, and other spondyloarthritis like ankylosing spondylitis. And so I teach people through Thrive's actually an acronym. So I teach them, it's in a pre-recorded course. I teach them all the evidence-based, lifestyle tools to reduce pain and fatigue, and also the mental health tools. So like T is tools for pain and fatigue, H is healthy habits, R is relationships and social life, I is inner world, V is values and valued activities, and then E is executive functions, like how to become the CEO of your care team. So I've been doing that for 3 years, and it's been really amazing to help people. Yeah, I'm almost like I call it like the orientation leader for rheumatoid arthritis. If you get diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis or psoriatic, it's like, I'm going to help orient you to this new job of being a patient.
I love it. I think it's so valuable and so needed in the community when, rheumatologists have less and less time to see their patients. So I think that's so good. So we were talking, and so everyone, if you want to listen to the podcast that Cheryl and I just recorded, it's much longer than the podcast that I offer with Unabridged MD, and highly recommend. I think it was really a fun conversation. So you said November. And it's
it'll be November 9th. It'll be episode 108 of the Arthritis Life Podcast.
And what's the podcast's name again? Room to Thrive or so?
It's called Arthritis Life Podcast.
Arthritis Life. Okay. And I'll put all of this in the notes. But yeah, so we were talking about something that's really dear to me. So you were saying that some people will come to you and will be like, hey, why are you talking about those drugs? Like, are you paid by pharmaceutical companies? And then you said, no, but I'm not, but I really believe in the power of putting both of those together. And so since Unabridged MD is really that, like it's a holistic approach where, my background as a researcher and rheumatologist for many, many years, I definitely believe in my drugs. And I also believe in the power of lifestyle modification and in the holistic approach to any sort of condition. So tell us about your approach to this, and what do you tell them?
Yeah, it was honestly, I'll go back to my diagnosis story, which kind of informs my outlook in addition to the research. I was diagnosed in 2003, and I got pretty much fast-tracked onto methotrexate plus a biologic. And I went into immediate medicated remission, no symptoms at all for 6 years, live my life. And that's kind of what I thought the rest of my life was going to be. I didn't realize that maybe my body might create antibodies, which it ended up doing. But long story short, my prognosis was like, look, you have pretty severe aggressive, your numbers are literally off the charts for all of my inflammatory markers. They're like, we need to get you on medicine as quick as possible. And I didn't hesitate at all. And this is 2003. This is before social media. I think Facebook was maybe just an idea in Mark Zuckerberg's, dorm room back then. But I think that was the blessing and the curse of back then. The sad part was I didn't get to know anyone else who was young with this condition. But the good part was that I didn't experience any misinformation online. So right now, in the last, 10, 15 years being more active on social media, it really perplexed me. I kept seeing, first of all, I didn't know methotrexate so many people had, so that some people have the side effects from it. I just started doing, I'll give an example. I did a video of myself giving my methotrexate injection, just simply saying, this is what it's like. This is what video influencer people do. I share a video of my life. And I got all these comments, you seem so chill and like happy to take methotrexate. Like, aren't you having these horrible side effects? I'm like, no, I've been taking this for 10 years. Like, it's not a big deal. It's what helps me. I'm happy about taking it. To me, it's not a depressing thing to take a medication. Put it another way. Sorry, this is me. Sorry, I have a kind of an ADD brain, but my great grandpa died of a tooth abscess. Like, we are not that far away, right, from people dying of like preventable things. Like, I feel so lucky to have been diagnosed when I had these meds. That was completely my attitude. And it's just, I trusted my doctor. She could explain that these are going to, be life-changing. And, I believed her, and they were. So, and again, not to just go on one anecdote that just illustrates it. But I saw so many people were so fearful, and they would say, well, what about going a natural route? Wouldn't it be better? You need to get off. Yeah, I'll say, oh, these medicines, we should, it's everyone's experience is valid, but the majority of people statistically will do well on these modern rheumatoid arthritis medications. That's just numbers. Doesn't matter how I feel about it, right? I happen to feel happy about that, but that's just data. And people would say, well, you're just saying that because you're being paid by pharma. And I'm like, who, where, I have done a couple one-off influencer gigs of like interviews with people from pharmaceutical companies, but that doesn't inform that education at all. I'm just telling people, I'm not scared of the medications. I'm scared of the disease ravaged, uncontrolled disease. So, all that to say, yeah, it's often posed as you can go all natural or you can go all in on Western. And people forget that there's these combination. You can do both. You can do integrative approaches, which are like the lifestyle modifications, like exercise, nutrition, sleep, stress management, alongside medication. It's kind of a no-brainer for me. The medication is something that's relatively easy for me to do. Yes, I've had side effects off and on, but it just takes a minute, once a week to do your injection, or in the case of now I'm on a daily medication, but the lifestyle factors take more investment, but they can help you a lot. It's something in your control, to some degree, depending on like finances and time. But for me, as an occupational therapist, that's all of it. We don't medicate, we're not licensed to treat people with medications. We're licensed to help people with those lifestyle modifications. So to me, it's the best of both worlds, to quote Hannah Montana.
Yeah, no, I love it. And I think that's exactly right. Like, why say no to some approaches when you can have both? Like, right? Like, it's like saying no to the science, the hard, like some people call it hardcore science, but like, man, hardcore science is why cancer are different now, why rheumatoid arthritis is very different than 30 years ago. Mm-hmm. And so to me, it would be so sad to not have access to those drugs when we have access to them. It's not like when we didn't have it, okay, sure, like, we didn't have it, but now we have access to it and our patients do well from it. But I love what you're saying. So, I guess I really, the reason I created this podcast is because it's hope driven by science. And one of them is basically this idea that, you need to get out of a physician's office with hope, but you can also get out of a healing energy worker or, occupational therapist with hope. Basically, anyone that's here on your team to help you feel better, you should get out of them feeling better and feeling hopeful. And so that's kind of the goal of Unabridged MD podcast as well, is hope driven by science. Can you tell us a story of someone or something that gave you hope, like where you're like, oh, look at this story. This is like so hopeful.
Oh my gosh. That's such a great question. I think that to me, I immediately think of two, of course, because I can't be just linear. I think about two different kinds of hope. There's the one is the hope that you can remediate the underlying problem. And then there's the hope that you can still cope and thrive and have a beautiful life with the problems, because we're never going to eliminate all the problems. So to me, the specific story of the second example would be like working one-on-one with my therapist. She really helped me say like, okay, what if, like, there's these elephant in the room questions a lot of times we don't want to even look at, but what if, let's say, what if you don't find a way to fix all the things that are challenging in your life? Can you still live a full, beautiful, meaningful life with those things? Like, because don't wait. It's like, don't put your whole life on hold or your happiness on hold until everything can get just so. Like, this was kind of when I was having postpartum depression in addition. So it's not just the RA, but like I had a postpartum flare up after my birth of my child. And then I also started having like, I mean, it's like hard to know postpartum depression, like how do you diagnose that? It's like, are you experiencing less enjoyment out of activities that you've previously found enjoyable? I don't know. I didn't have a baby before. So I don't enjoy this. I don't know if I could have enjoyed it in some alternate universe, so anyway, side note. So, can you say like I kept waiting for parenting a small child to get easier. I'm just going to wait. I'm going to figure it out. When I figure it out, I'm going to be happy. And she kind of caught that. And so to me, the hope is not, I'm going to figure it out. The hope is that I'm going to be okay with not figuring out everything in my life. I'm going to be okay with the ambiguity, the uncertainty, and the fact that life has solvable problems and it has perpetual problems. Some problems are not solvable. And interestingly, my therapist used to work with Dr. John Gottman, who's a world-renowned marriage researcher. And he said, the couples that are more likely to get divorced are not the ones that have the least arguments or the least conflict. It's the ones that accept that some of these arguments or some of these conflicts are perpetual, and they decide to be happy despite that, and they decide to thrive with those, as opposed to the ones that have the least conflict. So that kind of approach really, honestly, like changed my life more than anything else. It's just that acceptance-based approach, and not based on the conditions of like, then my happiness is now not contingent on my certain variables in my life being a certain way. It's saying that I can still make the best of any situation. Does that make sense a little bit?
Oh yeah, I love it. I'm definitely taking this as a snippet. I love it. Like,
oh, good.
Being happy while figuring that out, and this is like I mean, it's like, this is exactly it. This is what being a doc is this is what being a patient is. This is what being a mom is. Wow, like this was so well done. I'm going to be okay not figuring it out. I mean, it's gorgeous. Like, thank you. I don't even want the other history of hope. This is like so good. I do.
And I want to give credit. So not only to my therapist, but Dr. Russ Harris, like RUSSHARRIS. He wrote a book called The Happiness Trap: How to Stop Struggling and Start Living. And I know it sounds like a pop psychology book, but it is a evidence-based, ACT, acceptance and commitment therapy, is an evidence-based approach. And it really is the thing that has worked the best for me. The longer title is a guide. Okay, so The Happiness Trap: How to Stop Struggling and Start Living, a guide to ACT, the mindfulness-based program for reducing stress and anxiety, overcoming depression, developing self-compassion, and creating a rich and meaningful life. Like, the therapy combined with reading that book really helped crystallize it in my head of like, stop waiting. The happiness trap is the trap of thinking that if we just do XYZ, we're going to be happy, or just wait. It's saying, no, can we find joy and hope in the now, in exactly what's happening now, not in if my medication works or if it doesn't. It's what about right now? So yeah, it's definitely not my default state before was very much like, but why don't we just try to fix everything? Not realizing that, like, that's kind of a fool's errand, as they say.
I love it. I really do love it. Yeah. Thank you so much. So Cheryl, where can we find you? And so your support group is mostly for rheumatoid arthritis patients. Is that correct?
It's for any inflammatory arthritis. So I updated it in 2023. It used to be just for rheumatoid arthritis, and I updated it to be for any inflammatory arthritis because I wanted to include psoriatic arthritis and ankylosing spondylitis. But so my website is arthritis.theenthusiasticlife.com. It's kind of long, but that you can also go to it by going myarthritislife.net. That redirects you to my website. There you can learn about the Room to Thrive program. It's a self-contained, like self-paced course with an option of also doing the support group alongside it. So you can learn all of the self-management tips by just taking the course, and you can learn it alongside having a support group as well. And yeah, I'm on social media. I have different names on all my social media because I didn't know what I was doing when I started out. So it's arthritis_life_Cheryl on Instagram. And you can find links to all the social media on that website.
Yeah, no, that's great. Well, thank you so much, Cheryl. I think this was wonderful, and I'm so excited. And then, yeah, everyone, if you want to listen to Cheryl's podcast, it's super good. Plenty of very good tools for everyone, and like I love the guests that you invite. So yeah, no, this has been such a treat. So thank you so much. We'll put everything in the notes, and yeah, everyone go and check out Cheryl's website and all of our social media, because you're so good. I love what you do. So, yeah.
Same with you. I mean, I think it's really, you've given, like you mentioned hope, you've given so many people so much hope, and that's worth its weight in gold, as they say. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye for now.
Bye.